All right, welcome back, everybody. My name is William, always here with iMan, and we got a lot to talk about today. So first up, it's going to be Bitcoin, and then Ethereum, and then we're going to talk about all the layer 2 solutions that's going to solve the gas issue with Ethereum.
Yeah, if you're new to the space and you're a new buyer and you're wondering why it costs so much to transact on everything, we're about to explain why. And like potentially those days are gonna change, hopefully in the near future. Maybe not, depending on how difficult it is to implement this technology.
Yeah,
So certainly at some point in the future, because that seems to be a main like driver these days.
Yeah. And speaking of difficulty, if you're struggling to hold on to your seats on what's going on with Ethereum and Bitcoin, everything is doing a sell-off today, both Ethereum and Bitcoin.
Yeah, I guess it's relatively okay, right? Because it still fits in within your meme lines that have historically been so great.
Yeah, and so now this has turned into sort of like an uptrend channel, kind of. Not really.
What are we looking at here? ETH?
Yeah, this is ETH.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely don't want the price of ETH to go anywhere lower than this support band you have drawn up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It does, just like it did whenever you drew up your meme lines for Bitcoin, it's going to signal more selling from here. And we covered an article a few days ago about an analyst was predicting potentially Ethereum could correct down to the 800 levels.
Yeah, which is about right here.
Yeah. I mean, that seems to be the last place where like support could be built for Ethereum. I'm not expecting that to happen, but you always got to be ready even for the worst case scenarios, right?
Yeah.
Especially if you're new, because like a lot of people, you might have been buying into this market thinking everything just goes up, right? And you haven't really experienced like a true correction,
Yeah, for sure.
So just be mindful of that, be prepared for it, and just keep your eye on the long-term vision of what you're invested in, so.
Yeah, and if we look at Bitcoin, it's doing a similar sell-off. But it's still within that wedge. So
yeah, exactly. So, I mean, for now, things are peachy.
Yeah.
There's no need to sound any red alerts. Not
yet.
Yeah,
and speaking of peachy, you need to follow this Twitter account, Plan B, 100 trillion USD. Mm-hmm. And if you take a look at this chart here, he's always talking about stock to flow ratio.
Yeah.
And according to this chart, Bitcoin is on schedule. And if you go through down his Twitter timeline, he even mentions that there's a chance that Bitcoin could go to 100K somewhere between April and September timeframe if things continue to go at this rate.
So what are these two lines? These are the two previous cycles, or what?
Yeah, so this is Bitcoin November 22nd through July 2016. So this is one cycle. Okay. And then this is July 2016 to May 2020. That's the second cycle. And now we're on the third. And if you look at this, iMan, the peaks of each cycle keeps getting further and further down the cycle.
Yeah, that's kind of what I wanted to address, in the sense that this current cycle that we're in now, if he's correct, will peak sooner than the previous one did, right?
Yeah.
Or maybe not peak, but it will definitely be.
So like, that's if it continues this trajectory, which it can because of the institutional buying. But my thing is, I think it's just going to continue and it's going to collide with this blue line, and then it'll ultimately peak past these two peaks ultimately. So you might see a $200,000 Bitcoin somewhere around here.
Maybe.
And,
but like this chart that we're looking at, it kind of supports the whole lengthening cycle theory, in the sense that as time goes on, it takes longer for these peaks to occur, and they're shorter. They're not as pronounced. I think
yeah, that's true.
Weird. I'm confused. Hold on. Bitcoin price scale to 2020 happening months. So why is the price of the dark blue line
so high? They just superimposed the trajectory of Bitcoin over compared to the months after halving.
Okay.
So for example, this peak here happened 12 to 13 months after its halving, and then this peak happened 17 to 18 months after its halving.
Yeah. No, I understand that, but there's price metrics on the left side of this. It starts at 0 and ends at 1 million. Why does it look like Bitcoin peaked at like 900,000?
Because this chart on the left side is only considering the price of Bitcoin on the red line.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So right now we're at $30,000, which is past this line here.
Yeah.
And so we're actually measuring. This chart measures the price of the red line.
Gotcha. Okay. So
And
really, the only thing we should really be speculating on is, how far out will this peak? So
yeah,
well, yeah, that's interesting. So if it continues on this current trajectory, April, September is when we'll see 100K.
yeah.
But if you subscribe to the lengthening cycle theory, maybe Bitcoin and crypto corrects from here to kind of like go back to this,
The lengthening.
the lengthening hypothesis, I guess, so that you'll see a peak maybe in the 24, 25 month mark after post happening.
Yeah.
But I feel like that would really fuck up like Bitcoin's rhythm.
It would, but I think eventually it's going to break the cycle. I mean,
where like it's not so dependent on the happening because the happening becomes less and less impactful, right?
That's right.
Yeah. That's so true, man. That could happen.
Yeah, and I think institutional purchasing, I think that's the only thing that's really helping this be so accelerate so high and so quickly.
Okay, interesting. Well, I mean, that's definitely something to be mindful of. So if we do see like a massive correction from here and all these support lines that we have drawn up do fail within the short term, then it's definitely possible we could be in for potentially a year of sideways action, you would think, right?
Yeah, potentially, yeah.
Yeah, so that way by the time the market does regain vitality and ends up, and we do see our peak moment, it will definitely be, I wish you could draw on this chart, you know what I mean? So you can kind of like predict what that would look like.
Yeah, it'd be wild if it actually does reach 100,000 by April or through September.
Yeah, because if that happens, then that means it's subscribing to this being a hypercycle thesis or hypothesis.
Yeah,
so people are saying that too. Yeah, so we got multiple predictions going on here for Bitcoin. Yeah. Nobody really knows what it's gonna do, right?
But you know what? The minimum prediction so far out of everybody is at least 100,000. So it's no matter when it gets there, it's gonna get there no matter what. It seems.
That's true. And we do have 11 years or so of data suggesting Bitcoin only goes up. So if you're holding on to Bitcoin, it's definitely like, just don't stress too much about these short term, like if you're really dependent on this money in the sense that if you can't wait 12 months for it to like peak out from here, then I don't think you should have that money in Bitcoin in the first place.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you have much more pressing needs to address. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So keep that in consideration.
All right. So yeah, hopefully that quells the fears there for Bitcoin. And so let's take a look at MATIC. So on the drop.
Why MATIC? Why are we talking about MATIC all of a sudden?
Well, it broke its all-time high just recently, and so many projects are using MATIC, and its closest competitor is XDAI. And this is supposed to solve the gas issue that everybody is seeing right now with $30 gas fees for just any transaction on the Ethereum network.
Yeah, so why did gas why is it so expensive?
Well, it looks like any time that there's congestion in the network, there is a competition between transactions on who should be mined next on the blockchain. Yeah. And so if you have a pressing need to move a transaction as fast as possible, then you pay more in gas. When you pay more in gas, it signals to the miners that I'm willing to pay more to be added to the next block in the transaction, in the chain.
Yeah.
And so if everybody's paying more and more, then it's going to get more expensive just for the small $10 transactions. So that presents an issue.
It's just a reflection of demand, right? Like the higher the demand,
that's right,
the higher the price of the transactions will inevitably go up to. It's just a competitive environment to get your transactions accepted.
That's right.
Into the network. So then the obvious solution to bring down these prices is to expand the space of the network, or like decongest it, I guess, right? But that's a lot more difficult of a problem than it sounds.
Yeah.
Especially for a blockchain that's been in motion for 5-6 years now, right? You can't just like restart code, I guess.
Yeah, unclog it.
Yeah. So there's tons of different solutions being proposed. They have been proposed since the start of Ethereum and Bitcoin. Bitcoin has the same. So it seems like the Bitcoin community is less eager to fix it because I think more and more people are starting to. But you know what?
There's a big transaction that happened on Bitcoin. Someone moved $600 million worth of Bitcoin, and it only cost $3 to move it.
Yeah. See, that's what I'm saying. Bitcoin, that's what it's more of like what it's meant for, I think.
Yeah.
Not so much a peer-to-peer daily spending mechanism,
Yeah.
like what the original white paper said it was supposed to be. But it's perfectly fine. We've already said this before. It doesn't have to be that. More than likely, stable coins will be that.
Yeah.
Pegged to the value of Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. But yeah, but in Ethereum's case, this is a major issue because any application built on Ethereum is depending on these scaling solutions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah.
Having said that, the two main layer 2 solutions. So what's a layer 2, Will? What do you think?
Okay, so layer 2 essentially allows for an asset on the primary chain to move to the secondary chain. And in the secondary chain, you've architected a blockchain that allows for a higher throughput. So there's more transactions that occur per second on that second layer.
Yeah.
Then, so that second layer, I mean, you depend on it to be secure and everything, just like in the same main layer in the main chain. But since the transactions are cheaper, you can run a business on the second layer just because you don't have to require your customers to pay all these gas fees to interact with your product. So that's how these two solutions are executing their plan, is to create that second layer. So we have MATIC and XDAI to do that. So XDAI is, I think, closer to becoming more decentralized than MATIC. MATIC has a whole company and infrastructure kind of pushing it, and even giving out grants for projects to use MATIC. Decentraland's using it. There's tons of other projects using it. So these are two competitors, but there's two more, right, that all these developers keep talking about. It's optimistic rollups and ZK rollups. So this is where it tends to get a little bit more complicated. But these are also layer 2 solutions that are closely embedded to the main chain code. So I'm going to link this into the description. It's extremely in depth, but we have Uniswap testing out optimistic rollups with their Unipig testnet.
Yeah, so Unipig is basically like their beta version of their next
of the V3 Uniswap.
So in case y'all don't know, Uniswap is pretty much the biggest decentralized exchange out there for you to swap your cryptocurrencies, and it's built on Ethereum. So it's obviously proven itself to be a killer application on the Ethereum network, in the sense that we all love it. We love using this over a centralized exchange, right? Because it allows us to be custodians of our own assets. But the problem is it's built on Ethereum. So it's incredibly expensive to transact. You can't treat it like you could a Binance or a Coinbase, right? Where you can just flip tokens all day long. I mean, even the fees on there are pretty high, but it's nothing compared to what, Ethereum gas fee can get up to.
That's right.
So trading is really not efficient or even viable on a decentralized exchange like this. So the big next version of Uniswap is going to be the scalable version of it. So it's very important to figure out what technology will Uniswap decide to incorporate, right? Because something as big as Uniswap, I'm sure whatever they decide, it's going to probably permeate throughout the rest of the space. Kind of like everyone else, like, hey, if Uniswap is using it, that must mean it's the best, so let's use it too. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like we said, this is extremely in-depth, but the most important thing is to understand which projects are using what, because in my opinion, I don't think we can have a stratification of different layer 2s because you're just dividing the total addressable market into segments. And if you create a product on Ethereum, you may not have access to the people who is on the Flow blockchain network or other blockchains. And so I don't think that's really sustainable in the long term. So I think there has to be probably a winner for all this eventually, like in the long term.
So you think, like, we have like 4 solutions kind of drawn up here. I'm sure there's more. There are more. There's another one called Scale, if you want to look it up.
Yeah.
SKLE. And there's more. Basically, like this is definitely a sector you want to be paying attention to and doing your due diligence research in, because it's the most pressing issue, and it relates to everything. Anything that's being built in the Ethereum space, it's all riding on how to fix this.
Yeah.
So, yeah, definitely do your research. But you're right. If something wins,
I think there is going to be a one winner out of all this. I think there has to be.
I think at some point, but not in the short term. In the short
term, maybe not.
Yeah, I think in the short term, like these layer 2 solutions are being adopted more by, like, I don't know, like how to explain it. Like for sure, like in the blockchain gaming space, they seem to be adopting like MATIC pretty heavily.
Right.
I think it's because like the user onboarding process is much simpler, I believe. And just because it's like it's an actually functioning product, you know, and these game applications, they're actual businesses they need to run. They have actual users that they want to satisfy, so they're just kind of using what's currently available, right?
Yeah,
and
for
easy
sure.
to implement.
Yeah, and they need short-term solutions like right now, just like any business that's running right now on the Ethereum network. They need a solution now. They can't wait for ETH 2.0. They can't wait for optimistic rollups to be tested and rolled out on the Ethereum network. And so there's a place for all of these different sidechain solutions. I just think in the long term, it'll be difficult for all of them to continue existing.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like over time, it's just it's a competitive environment, dude. Just like nature.
That's right. Yeah.
And nature always finds a way to select a winner.
Yeah.
You know, so the same thing's gonna happen in every space. You know, and even in technology, this happens. You know, we had tons of social media platforms in the early 2000s.
That's right.
Now there's only Facebook.
Yeah.
Facebook owns everything. Like Facebook definitely won that race.
That's
you know
right.
what I mean?
That's right.
So right now we're in the days of nobody really knows who's gonna win in this space. But yeah, at some point, you know,
it'll consolidate.
Evolution will kick in. You know?
All right. Well, yeah, that covers everything we wanted to talk about. Just make sure you follow us on Twitter at the Block Runner and at MetaZone.io. Comment, like, subscribe, do all those things. Let us know what you think is the best sidechain solution. What do you think about Bitcoin and Ethereum doing this sell-off? And just let us know what you guys think, and we'll see you on the next episode.
All right. Peace out.